Greetings and welcome to another edition of The Great Goddess. Praise be to Goddess. Praise be to Goddess. Well, here it is, another Wednesday, and the holidays are upon us. It's almost time for the holidays. December 9th is a holiday for me. December 9th is, I celebrate Virgin Mother's Day, and it's a celebration of the maiden and mother aspect of Goddess. Maiden and mother, I celebrate them both on Virgin Mother's Day, and that's December 9th. So, mark it on your calendar. It's the start of the holiday season. The holiday season is arriving, and it's almost time. And celebrate. And now's the time to start your holiday shopping or selling things for the holidays. The big holiday is Modronicht. We love Modronicht. It's a traditional holiday. It's an ancient holiday. It's over 2,000 years old. Tradition of grandmothers and are celebrated, and the crone aspect of Goddess is celebrated, and the grandmothers give gifts to their grandchildren and relight the Yule log. They relight the home fire. The home fires are relit on Modronicht. And also it's Yule for those of you who are pagans. Those of you who are pagans, it's also Yule when the Yule log gets relit. But it's even, Modronicht is even more ancient. It's like Yule for the British, or the British Isles, and it celebrates women. It celebrates women, so it's a great, Modronicht is a great holiday. And I invented a new holiday. The day after Modronicht is Matrons Day. And of course, as we know, these coincide with Christmas. Christmas Eve is Modronicht, and Christmas Day is Matrons Day. And they stole our holiday. They commandeered it for themselves, as I've mentioned before, and I'll talk about that more in a future video. But Virgin Mother's Day is coming up, and enjoy the holiday. Celebrate the combination of maiden and mother, however you wish, however you think is best, and enjoy your holiday. Now, the topic of today's video was inspired by Humane Day. Humane Day, as we all know, is the day when we protest what's happening to the turkeys and the other animals that get killed for Thanksgiving. And on Humane Day, we don't celebrate at all, we protest. So it's a day of protest. So it's kind of like, you know how all the Christian holidays are happy and exciting? Well, the Jews actually have some days that are days of mourning, and they observe these. These are days of mourning that they observe every year. Obviously, America's got some days of mourning, like 9/11 Day, that we observe a day of mourning and observance and remembrance, and also Veterans Day and Memorial Day. But the Jews have days of mourning where they have a Day of Atonement that's the high holiday of the year, Yom Kippur, and they also have days of mourning, different kinds of days of mourning that they observe, a day of mourning. And so we have Humane Day. We observe a day of mourning for Humane Day every year, and protest for the turkeys. But yeah, if if you think about it, it makes sense that veganism and goddess worship go together. And that's the topic of today's video. Veganism and goddess worship go together. And why do I say this? Why would a goddess worshiper want to be a vegan? Can't she eat meat? Well, she can eat meat, and it's allowed to eat meat because it's a free country and everyone's allowed to eat meat. So you can be a goddess worshiper and eat meat, but it's probably best to be a vegan. That's the best. And why would goddess worship go hand in hand with veganism? Well, didn't goddess create meat eaters? Didn't she create animals to eat meat? Well, she thought of animals to eat meat. She thought of it. But it was a thought that occurred to her in her mind. And the thing about carnivores is that it's something that she invented, that it was a thought in her mind. But she didn't actually force animals to eat meat, okay? That's another story, how animals started eating meat. I'll tell that in the future. But as far as humans eating meat, it's not necessary because humans are mostly, they're mostly vegetable eaters. And they're meant to eat lots of vegetables. Our ancestors used to chew on greens all day long. All day long we would gather greens, eat greens, wash greens. We would eat lots of greens because that's what's mostly available was vegetation, and we had to find vegetation that was safe for us to eat, that wasn't poisonous. So we would spend most of our day eating greens because that was what was available. And greens are really healthy for humans. Okay, we're adapted to survive on greens and other foods, other staples, like starches. There used to be a shortage of starchy foods. There weren't very many, but there were always tubers and root vegetables. That was a mainstay of our diets in the past, was tubers and root vegetables, and berries, obviously. As long as they're not poisonous, berries were a mainstay of our diets. And very little meat, because it was hard to get meat. They did eat some meat. Our ancestors did eat some meat, and we evolved on meat. But we don't have big brains because of meat, okay? We do not have big brains because we were hunters. That's not the case. We learned a lot about horticulture and about vegetables and about what was poisonous and what wasn't. That's how we got big brains. And agriculture enabled our brains to grow even more. So agriculture was mainly centered on raising vegetables for food, and we got big brains because of the agriculture. That enabled our brains to grow because the nutrition that was available to us enabled our brains to grow. And the things we had to learn to enable agriculture enabled our brains to grow. It required a smarter human, and the smarter humans got the better crops and were more likely to survive the next year. So big brains from being mostly gatherers and less from being hunters. Hunters have to know some things, but it wasn't meat that enabled our brains to grow. That isn't the case at all. And as far as out in nature, some predators are more intelligent than their prey, but some prey animals are more intelligent than the predators. So like elephants are some of the smartest animals on earth. So it all depends. It all depends. But predators mostly have big brains. They're mostly smart animals, with maybe the exception of bears. But People have big brains, and they didn't need to because they were great. We're great apes. We're great apes, and we're in the family of great apes. That's the family we belong to, and chimpanzees eat lots of meat, and they're very closely related to us. But gorillas don't eat any meat at all. They don't eat any meat at all. They're total vegetarians, and gorillas are closely related to us too. So, and even the animals that eat lots of meat, like the chimpanzees, they don't eat mostly meat. Guess what? They don't eat mostly meat, and it's very hard for them to get meat. They eat mostly plants, and that's the truth. So are we better off or healthier without meat? Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a case to be made for veganism being healthier. But as far as goddess goes, why would goddess worship go along with veganism? Well, because goddess loves her creatures. She loves all souls that she's created, including the animal souls. And yes, there is such a thing as animal souls. It's not all human souls wanting to be human, but not having a birth channel and having to become animals instead. It's not like that. It's not like that at all. You might think that, but it's not like that. The way it is, the way it really is there are animal souls and there are human souls. And human souls are basically waiting for a human birth channel to be born, whereas animal souls can be born as animals right away. And it's not just human souls and animal souls. There's different kinds of animals. So different kinds of animals are born as different kinds of animals. So they're like, for example, ants souls are always born as ants, or sea slugs are always born as sea slugs, or birds are always born as birds, or some other smart animal that is a smarter animal. And predators can be born as predators. Now there is some mobility. There is some mobility there where different kinds of animals can be born as different kinds of animals, but mostly the animals are born as animals. Most of them are never born as humans. The 99.99999% are never born as human because they can only be animals. They can only be animals. They can't be humans. They're not smart enough. They weren't created to be smart. They're just souls that have a low level of intelligence, and they really can't be human. Now, I'm sure there's some animals that are smart that would like to be human, that could be born as human, like dogs or cats or elephants or dolphins. All of those animals are smart. They could be born as human. But most of them are animals, and they just stay animals. Now, as far as human souls, humans are usually born as human, but humans, unlike animals, can be born as animals. In fact, sometimes they're born as animals for the purposes of learning a lesson. Like, for example, if a human did not take good care of their young, if they were neglectful and terribly abusive, they might be born as a bird or some other mammal and be forced to take care of their babies by instinct. Instinct will guide them to take care of their babies. And so that's a good way to retrain a human who's neglectful how to care for their young, is to make them be born as an animal. And maybe they'll have an experience as an animal because of their karma, like losing their young. They might lose their young if they're neglectful, and that'll hurt them a lot because animals have instincts that make them want to take care of their young. So it really hurts when they lose their young. So being born as a bird or as a as a fox or a bear or some other animal that takes really good care of their young might be a good experience for somebody who's neglectful. Another example is somebody who abuses cows. Maybe they were a farmer and they slaughtered cows, or they worked in a meat packing plant, or they kicked cows, or they abused cows. A human like that might be born as a cow and learn what it's like to be abused. Another example would be somebody who really loves their meat and they eat an all meat diet and recommend all meat diets to other people. Somebody like that might be born as a carnivore because they love meat so much. Why not give them some more so they can eat nothing but meat all the time? And they could be born as a bear or a dog or a cat, especially the big cats. That would be a birth channel for a carnivore human to be born. And, you know, or if they contributed to a lot of animal suffering because of eating meat, they might be born as a cow or a pig or a chicken or whatever their favorite meal was. So, veganism, Goddess loves the animals. She loves all her animals, all animal spirits, all her spirits she loves, not just humans. She doesn't love humans more than her animal spirits that she's created. And she would like to see humans not eat animals. She would like to see humans be vegans because humans are intelligent and they're big. We're big animals, okay? Let's face it. We are big animals. Like 99% of animals are smaller than humans. There's only a few that are bigger. Lions and tigers, bears, elephants. There aren't very many animals that are bigger than humans. There aren't very many. You can count them on the fingers of both hands, the animals that are bigger than humans. So we're big animals. We take up a lot of resources. We use a lot of water. We need a lot of food. We need a lot of space. We need farming land for us. And there's a lot of humans. And the reason there's a lot of humans is because we're so smart. We learned how to cure diseases, okay? So once we learned how to cure diseases and weren't subject to diseases anymore, the population exploded. So now there's more humans than a lot of the land animals that are large. Of all the large land animals, there's more humans than other large land animals. And this creates a conundrum because we need land. We need land, but we don't have enough land. Or at least we're headed toward a situation. We're not headed toward extinction because we're definitely not going to go extinct, but we're headed toward a situation where there's not going to be enough land for everybody because the population keeps growing. It'll go up to 30 billion, I'm sorry, 30 billion, then 60 billion, and it'll be too many humans to sustain. Okay, but definitely you will not sustain 30 billion humans on meat, because meat uses anywhere from 10 to 100 times more land to create the meat and more water and more resources than it does for plants. So Goddess loves vegans because it enables more humans to be born. If everyone became vegan, we could have more humans and they could all be sustained and they wouldn't have to starve to death or be like those kids in Ethiopia that we see that are skeletons. That wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen if we had all vegans. It's actually meat eaters that are creating the situation. You know how they see the kids on TV and they're crying, They're crying, they're so sad, and they're like, why are these kids starving? Why are they skeletons? Well, I'll tell you what's going on in their home countries. Their home countries are taking all the land to produce meat for them to eat. It's true, this is happening. This is happening in Africa and other countries. They are producing meat for us to eat. And there's no land left for their own people to eat. So their own people are starving to death because it takes so much land to create meat. And a few people get to eat. Some of the people in Africa get to eat some of the meat. The richest people in Africa get to eat some of the meat. And most of the meat goes to the Western countries. And the Africans are starving because of that. It's not just famines anymore. It's not just famines that are wiping out all the crops. That has happened. But nowadays, the reason we see skeleton children is because all the resources are going toward raising meat for Westerners. So don't cry. Don't cry when you see a child that's a skeleton on TV. That's on you. That's on you. That's your responsibility because you decided to eat meat. And kids are starving because there's not enough land for crops in their own countries. So what can we do? We can become vegans, and there will be enough. If we become vegans and convince enough people to become vegans, there will be enough land. There will be enough land for everybody to eat, and the animals will not suffer. Goddess loves this. Goddess loves the environment that she created. She loves the animal souls that she created. And she loves the humans that she created and wants them to be able to be born in human birth channels and live a human life. And all of that is enabled by veganism. So Goddess loves vegans. And veganism goes hand in hand with Goddess worship, because if you're conscientious and care about Goddess, if you're conscientious and care about Goddess and care about women, then naturally what follows from that, from Goddess worship, is that you're also going to care about animals and care about your fellow human beings and care about the earth. All of those things go with Goddess worship. So veganism is a good path for Goddess worshipers, and I recommend very much that all Goddess worshipers become vegans. And I just think it's a good idea. So on a personal note, I've been doing lots of research on schools all across the country, and there's a few criteria that I look for. I look for affordability, see if I can afford to go there. I want to know whether or not I'm going to have a job while I'm going to school, or whether I can concentrate all my time on my studies. I want to know where I can live. I want to know what kind of transportation there is. And if there's a fifth thing, it's whether the school is vegan friendly or not. I've discovered only 2 schools so far, 2 schools that are not vegan friendly. There's 2 schools that are not vegan friendly, and all the rest of them use a food service. Almost all the schools use a food service. They use Aramark, or they use some other food service. And these food services are great because when they use a food service, they come with these vegan symbols, and they have menus showing the food with a vegan symbol next to it to tell whether or not you can eat it. And also, some of the schools have nutritional information available so that you can look and see if the food contains any allergens or anything you disapprove of. And so, Yeah, some of the schools are great, but there's a couple of schools that I found that were not very vegan friendly. And one of them I can't afford, so that one is out. But there's one that I can afford that I'm not so keen on. That's not so great because they have a lot of food that I can't eat. They have a lot of food that I can't eat, like their dining hall, their main dining hall, and they're very stingy with food. This college, they're very stingy with food. They make you weigh your food. They make you weigh your food and charge you based on the weight of the food in the main dining hall, and they charge a fortune. It's something like $8.99 a pound. So, but the food is it's very expensive, and they do not have a wide selection of vegan food. You can go in for breakfast, and all they have for breakfast for vegans is a biscuit, which probably isn't purely vegan, and hash browns, which may or may not be vegan, and fruit. And that's it for breakfast. And for lunch, they don't have anything. They don't have anything. Or for dinner. But they have the same thing for lunch and dinner every day. And there were only 2 days per week where they had vegan foods. 2 days per week. The rest of the time they don't. And that's their main dining hall. They also have restaurants. And the restaurants have vegan options, but not their main dining hall. So that school, I could find things to eat. I definitely could find things to eat, but I'm not too keen on it. I'm not too pleased, and I'm not too keen on going to a school that doesn't cater to vegans at all. And they don't have a meal plan where you can eat as much as you want. So I'm not naming the school. But I'm thinking of not going there because I don't like they don't have vegan options. Even schools way out in the middle of nowhere use a food service and have vegan options available. Even schools out in the middle of a human desert, a desert where there's no humans except for the kids going to college. Even those places have vegan options, but the school doesn't. Really. I mean, they've got some things that vegans can eat, but they don't cater to vegans, which I don't like. So I'd probably prefer to go to school somewhere else. They have a high acceptance rate, which is a positive, but I probably won't go to school there if I can help it. There's better schools, and I also am interested in the schools that have better education. Just what I'm looking for. I would go to a school that caters to me, that has exactly the education that I'm looking for, because the education's the most important. That's what I want. I want the education. Everything else is just part and parcel of getting the education. So education is most important, and not all of them have the education that I want, and they don't have the classes that I want and what I prefer. So I'm just looking at schools right now, deciding what I want, what I don't want, and I'm writing it all down. I'm not writing it down per se. I'm typing it up on my computer. So I'm working hard on it. And I should find the perfect school eventually. I have a lot of schools to choose from. So that's it. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy Virgin Mother's Day, and celebrate with baked goods and selling baked goods, and however you like to celebrate Virgin Mother's Day. And I'll see you next time.